Hey everybody, hey, welcome back to the 53206 cast. I'm Alex.
And I'm Meg.
And this is a podcast, Meg. Meg, I don't actually know what this is a podcast about.
I know.
Do you know what it's about?
I kind of wanted to do this too, I'm going to be honest.
Okay.
Like, where you don't know. We've talked about this, so I feel like you'll have something to say. And to be honest, I was real against this podcast. And then, like...
Our podcast? You're against our podcast?
No, I was against this topic that I'm going to bring up.
Oh, okay.
Like... I actually said to you, I don't want to do a podcast on that. And then the exact same situation like came up. Okay. So I was like, okay, fine. We can do a podcast on it. Okay. So a situation like this has come up a lot in the last few days. And so I feel like this is a good one to go into it. So like I said, a few different situations similar to this. We won't get into all of them, but we'll just get into this one. So there is there's Pick and Save. Pick and Save is associated with Kroger. It's the grocery store in Milwaukee. A bunch of them are closing. I do not know why they're closing, but a bunch of them are closing. And I feel like living in a food desert, it's something that's like, it's hard. It's hard when, you see a grocery store's closing and you're like, oh, that just means people have less access to that grocery store. Mm-hmm. Okay. Around the same time, we got a donation we got this. We got it in the mail. The donation came from Pick and Save. And it just like, it made me be like, okay, I should hate them, but now I like them. And I feel like it's like the all or nothing thing where you're like, I feel like in the world today, everything is very polarized. And I feel like a lot of times you're put in a situation where you have to like pick sides. And I don't know how, I don't know exactly how to say this, but it just seems like we need more on the team of let's get rid of poverty. Let's get rid of all the, racism. Let's get rid of all these things. And so I feel like that's what I wanted to talk about today. Like the all or nothing stuff. Okay. I don't know like where to go from there, but that's the background. And like I said, I was very against having this conversation. So here we go.
So this is a podcast on all or nothing.
This is a podcast on all or nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so it would be your belief. I mean, it's obviously, I talk about this just to you frequently.
Yeah.
How I tend to think the same way that you just laid that out, that it's just not all
there's
or
a lot
nothing.
There's a lot of
do you know why Pick and Saves close?
Probably because they don't make any money.
They lose money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And Pick and Save is a corporation.
Yes.
Kroger is a corporation.
Yeah.
They have shareholders, I'm assuming.
Uh-huh.
I don't believe they're privately held. I believe they're publicly held.
Yeah.
And so they probably shouldn't lose money.
Yeah.
They probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
And it sucks, but when you have an area that is so highly concentrated with people that are struggling and living in poverty, you're probably not spending a ton of extra money at the grocery store.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
A grocery store in a specific location that's why food deserts exist. They don't exist because Pick and Save is evil. They food deserts exist because there's a lot of people in one place and there's not a lot of money to be had in that place. Yeah. And so, and look, you can, that's super overly simplistic.
Sure.
Yes, I know, there's the government subsidies. I mean, people call them food stamps. It's not called food stamps, but yes, I'm well aware that those things exist. But at the same time, it's not like the fancy, what do they call it over here? The Metro Market, which is another type of Pick and Save, where like everything's expensive at the Metro Market. Yeah. I like the Metro Market. I like going there. I feel fancy when I go there. But, it's not, that wouldn't do well in our neighborhood because it's a level that is above financially of like the bare minimum. Yeah. And when, if the median household income in our zip code that's probably like up to $26,000 a year, and that's the poverty line is right around that. That means half the people live below the poverty line. They're not buying olives that are $7 a pound because that's insane. Yeah. I'm not even buying $7 a pound olives.
Yeah.
But but many other people in many other neighborhoods can afford fancy olives.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Meg, it's not all, it's not black and white or all or nothing. It isn't. It isn't that way.
And I think like I just feel like, especially like in the last few years, it's very like you're either like for them or against them with just a lot of things. And I think like that can be so harmful because, again, when we're talking about areas of concentrated poverty, when we're talking about racism, when we're talking about anything that has to do with social justice, we need more people that are for that. We need more people that are against that. I feel like everyone knows what I'm trying to say, but we need more people that are trying to help areas of concentrated poverty.
Yeah, and so I mean, maybe that in the past would have looked like going to that grocery store.
Yeah.
Like that would have been. But I mean, because I was thinking about that on my run. Maybe it was yesterday. It wasn't today, but I was thinking like, well, what's the solution for that? Because they're what am I going to do? Start a grocery store? Like, I'm probably not going to start a grocery store.
Yeah.
Clearly they don't make enough money to be feasible in that specific area. I mean, I'll do the stuff that We Got This because that helps a little bit, tiny amount, very, very small amount, but still, like, it's not all or nothing. And I'm glad you started with the pick and save example.
Yeah.
Because I think this thing translates from from a corporate level.
Yeah.
And corporations, this is something that I've learned, and I want to just say this real quick and then go to the personal. So if I forget, Meg. Personal is the thing I want to get to next. Corporations are not people. People work there. People run them. They are not human beings that make human being type decisions. They make financial decisions.
Yeah.
Some of them make financial decisions and then will also then decide to have some sort of societal cause tied to them, which is great, which is probably why We Got This got the donation. But they're not people. I also want to point out that, and this is something that I'm learning, that government entities are not people either. They are made up by people, but they have systems and structures, and they are not human beings. They are different. Again, that doesn't mean that they can't, be bent towards one direction, but they aren't. They don't. That's not the. Maybe if it is the intent, it isn't happening. They're just kind of their own thing, and you can take that. And I'm really not speaking from a national level. I'm really just speaking from City of Milwaukee.
Okay.
City of Milwaukee is not a human being. That you can have a conversation. I can't call up the City of Milwaukee. Go drink a cup of coffee with them.
Complain about the streetlights because they don't actually care. The City of Milwaukee does not care about the streetlights.
Because the City of Milwaukee is not a human being.
Yes.
So the City of Milwaukee cannot physically care because they are not a human being. They are an organization that is run by human beings, but they are not a human being. But let's take it now to the personal level. I do not believe that a human being is all or nothing either.
Yeah.
I think that just like the thing with the grocery store, human beings have the capacity to be somewhere in the middle. And it's really something that fascinates me because we're very quick to label someone as let's just use the generic term bad.
I feel like we just talked about this with like the Form and Spirit podcast.
Oh, did we? Okay. Well,
we talked about like we judge people on like what they do rather than their intentions.
Sure.
So I feel like this is similar.
So, and I definitely do not want to get into this one. I don't want to use any specifics, but there was a similar situation where, it would have been easy to label a person as bad. And I read a lot of comments about a lot of people that were labeling this one individual as bad. But I also, in my interactions with this person, found them to be great. And so I don't think that we can shoehorn someone into a good or bad. because you may have this terrible interaction with this person, but then this person may go turn around and do something really quite generous and remarkable, right?
Yeah.
And so can we just shift this slightly?
To personal?
We're in personal right
personal.
now.
Okay,
We've already shifted there.
Just wanted to make sure we touched on that.
I want to talk about, because I feel like back in 1965.
Okay.
How many years ago was that? 60 years ago? Our neighborhood was very different.
Sure.
Our neighborhood was very different. And very real things were being done to discriminate against individuals, specifically around housing. The city was likely still fairly segregated, even more so than it is now, but like aggressively being segregated. Right now it's segregated, and it's a lot of very small decisions that people make. But this was very big decisions that were intentional to harm people. But that is not the way that it is today. It's very different than it was 60 years ago. And Meg, I wonder sometimes, because every once in a while we'll interact with somebody that on the surface just seems to have like no clue about social justice. Like you'll talk to them, or you'll see they'll make. I just remember there was somebody that made some comment on our Facebook page, that we got this Facebook page, and it was ridiculous. It was a ridiculous comment. But then they grew in their understanding of the organization, and I think probably grew a little bit as an individual, and ended up coming out and donating like a bunch of like actually like nice stuff.
Yeah.
And it would have been so easy to label that person as bad.
Yeah.
But they did good.
Yeah.
And Meg, I think we're all the world has changed a lot since 2020.
Yes.
Particularly the world has changed a lot in terms of social justice. And a lot of people may have not caught up to the change quite yet. And I think it's really important to, if somebody hasn't caught up, to not do anything that's going to keep them from catching up.
Yeah.
Because anytime we label someone as bad, or we shame them for their beliefs, they may have just not caught up to where the majority of the collective consciousness is, and shaming them and calling them whatever races. It's probably not super useful.
Yeah.
Now, if you're an individual that has found yourself in that position where you've done something and you're like, oh, I really shouldn't have done or said that.
Yeah.
Meg, we're watching the new show we're watching. I think it's called Stick.
Yeah.
It's got Owen Wilson, and he's a golfer, and he has like this big tirade years before. And then he like never goes and plays golf again. I don't want anybody to be stuck like that.
Yeah.
Because if you do something, you say something, and when you're sitting at home at night and you realize, oh shit, I shouldn't have said, or I shouldn't have done that, it would be easy to blame somebody else, or be easy to really down on yourself. Just go out there and do good.
Yeah.
Just go out there and do a little more good in the world. Because if you have a bad interaction with somebody and it doesn't go well, and maybe somebody thought that you were racist, or maybe somebody thought that you were classist, or maybe somebody thought that you were ableist, which is when you talk bad about people with disabilities. You don't always have to be that way.
Yeah.
And sometimes your prejudices come out into the open, and you realize, oh my God, I said or did this thing.
Yeah.
And really the antidote for that is just, go do some good.
Yeah.
Just, if you said something terrible, go do something really good.
Yeah.
Because the world really isn't like keeping score, and that doesn't negate your potential to go out and make a difference in the world.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean like, well, if I donate $1,000 to We Got This, I can say all sorts of terrible things online.
Sure.
Like it doesn't pan out like that.
Yeah.
But like, and it's not like, when I think I have this right, when you're a Catholic,
okay,
sometimes you give a penance.
Yeah.
It's like the consequence, or like you do this thing now to make it right.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be like that. You don't need to think it that way.
I thought you were going to say like when Amazon's like, oh, this is like, if you don't get this tomorrow, it'll like lower the carbon footprint. And I just always think that's so funny because I'm like, I do not shop at Amazon because it's good for my carbon footprint. Sure. You know, I feel like I know that it's probably not good to shop at Amazon, but like, again, I feel like it's not an all or nothing. Like so I feel like this is another good example. Like has this incredible Amazon wish list. Sure. And people buy like wonderful, like all this wonderful thing for the kids just because it's super easy.
It's very easy.
And like, I would love to not use Amazon, but it's there, nowhere else makes it as easy.
Sure. Right. If we have a book club for kids at the garden, and we want to buy one very specific book, and we can't find a locally owned bookstore that will like help work that through, and maybe we just have to try a little harder. Yeah. But it would also be a lot easier if they just showed up on the doorstep and we just handed them to the kid. Yeah. And so
like all or nothing, like, Amazon's a huge corporation and I don't want to support them, but
because they're not a human being.
Yeah. But like, do we need shovels for the kids that we got this? Yes.
Yeah, we kind of do.
So like, I feel like we can't always think like an all or nothing, and it's hard to do that. I feel like our society is like, is forcing us more and more into that. And I just want to resist against that. And I want our listeners just to think through, okay, when are you being forced to do this? And how do we give space and breathe a little bit more?
Yeah, Meg, I remember it was a couple of years ago. I was trying to describe, because when I would go and be an education consultant, I would ask a lot of questions like the principals or the school leaders. Yeah. And I know I've talked about this on here before, but this is kind of the point I'm trying to make. A lot of times they would talk about their school culture. Yeah. So your school culture is the net result of all of the interactions that you have. And you can do big things like when we're at the garden and we have like morning announcements and we set the tone for the day. Like that's a big thing that you can do, and yes, you should do those big things. But the culture is really made by all those interactions. Yeah. So in a school, you've got a school of 1,000 kids. Each kid has 8 classes. You're talking about 8,000 interactions in a day. Many more because it's not just one time in class. But at the bare minimum, you've got 8,000 interactions. Yeah. And so if you want your culture to be positive, then the majority of those interactions should be positive. Yeah. And so it's all of those little tiny things stacked and added on top of one another. And so if you want to do good in the world, I would just recommend that you are stacking up your choices, your interactions, the way you go about your life in a way that is little by little by little, stacking up and moving towards a more
just world.
Yeah, more just world. A world filled with equality versus inequality. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's not all or nothing. It's not. People aren't all or nothing. A corporation probably isn't all or nothing. Yeah. It's somewhere in the middle. Yeah. And as a human being and on a personal level, you can choose to, or at least make an attempt to have more good be put out into the world. And Meg, no one's keeping score. Yeah. It seems like people are keeping score. Yeah. Like if I got on the podcast and I said something super terrible and then a bunch of people called me out on it, maybe I'd feel like, well, now I got to go do something really good to make up for it. The world's not keeping score. Yeah. They're not. The world is moving in a direction, and that direction is equality. And you get to decide if you want to be a part of it or you don't want to be a part of it. And it's not keeping score. So if you screw up, it happens. Yeah. Just do better next time.
And I think with that, like, the world is moving in a towards equality, and you get to decide like what equality part is exciting for you, and go do that.
Yeah. Meg, you got anything you want to? That was a terrible question. Let me try that question again.
Okay.
Megan, do you have? She hates when I call her Megan.
I do. I feel like I'm gonna be yelled at or something.
Megan.
Yeah.
You know that people don't know you very well if they call you Megan. I know it's funny because sometimes when I get like a text message from someone wanting to buy my house, it'll say Ronald.
Yeah.
And I never read the Ronald text messages.
I also get text messages with Ronald.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I always just want to be like F you, but I don't say that. I
do.
I do sometimes, but usually I just send them our podcast on the.
That's good. Maybe we should do maybe we should do another one, so we can send them a newer one.
Yeah. But we got the boat shoes.
Yeah,
boat shoes.
That was last year.
Yeah.
Did you realize that we ended up buying that house?
Yeah, I
did.
The
boat shoes. Oh, I never really thought about that.
Yeah. That's neat.
That is neat. Well, Meg, you got anything you want to plug before we go?
I think by the time this comes out, hopefully, we will have, I'm putting this out into the universe, we will have on the WeGotThisMK.com an area where you can buy locally a book for the book club. So I'm really, fingers crossed, we're working with 2 different local bookstores.
So that was a real life example.
That was
might
a
actually...
real life, yeah. So we're really hoping, and if not, we'll get it on Amazon. But again, we're working with 2. We got emails out, so I'm hopeful.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, Meg, do I have anything I want to plug? No, I don't.
All right. Well,
it's boring.
No, you
working on my stuff.
You have an exciting life. Very exciting. I think I would like to plug your book if anybody wants to.
It's funny because I always forget that I wrote that.
Yeah, it was a lot.
And then I see like one laying on the floor in the house. I'm like, I did do that.
Yeah. So it's called Bad Neighborhoods.
It's called Bad Neighborhoods.
You can get it on Amazon. And you can also listen to it on Spotify. So for free.
Yeah.
Or any of the podcast places.
Yep. Anywhere you get a podcast, you would just look up the name Bad Neighbor. Remember when there was like 6 months where I was explaining that over and over and over again?
Yeah.
It worked out. A bunch of people listened to it.
Yeah.
So if you haven't yet and you want to, it's there. Go for it. I'm not taking it down, Meg. It's there. All right. Well, thanks for listening, and we will catch you next time.
Bye.